All right, so we're now going to talk about starting with a fraction and turning that fraction into a percentage and turning that fraction into a decimal. So let's begin by talking about converting a fraction to a percentage. So to do this, you're going to multiply by 100. So you're going to take the fraction, so in this case 215, and you multiply it by 100 over 1. And this always works. This will always turn it into a percentage. You first need to simplify. It can be simplified this way, 5 and 100, both divisible by 5. This will become 20. And now I'm going to go 2 times 20 is 40. 1 times 1 is 1. That means my answer will be 40%. 40%. Now, there is an alternative way of doing this, and the alternative way of doing this is to create an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Now, this only works if you can make the denominator 100. So in this case, we've got 215, and I could make that denominator 100 very easily simply by multiplying the top and bottom by 20. So if I was to do that, I'm going to get a denominator of 100 because 5 times 20 is 100 and 2 times 20 is 40, and that means it's going to be 40%, which is what we found here. So that is another way of doing the same thing. Now, what if I gave you a fraction and I asked you to turn it into a decimal? Now, there are two ways of doing this. My least favorite way of doing this is to divide. Now, this always works, and is to divide the numerator by the denominator. So in this case, we would say 5 divided by 2. And I'm going to make this 2.00. Now, I'm going to do this. How many times does 5 go into 2? It doesn't, so I put a 0 there, and I carry the 2 across. And remember, your decimal point goes straight up. How many times does 5 go into 20 now? 5 goes into 20 4 times. So that means my answer is going to be 0.4. And that makes perfect sense because 40%, 0.4, same thing. Now, as I said, this isn't my favorite way of doing it. A better, or not better, an alternative way that doesn't actually always work is to do this. So make the denominator a power of 10 and then use your knowledge of place value. Now, this only works if you can make the denominator a power of 10. So just be careful of that. If you can't make the denominator a power of 10, this could be a problem. So in this case, we're starting with 215, and this is pretty easy. I can make this 5 into a power of 10 simply by multiplying this and this by 2. And if I do that, I'm now going to get 4 on 10, which is the same thing as 4 tenths. So it's 0.4. And that's how I can get 0.4 right there. So that is how you do that. Hopefully you found that helpful.